Thanks, Chris, for bringing me up to date with your concerns regarding being bullied in your workplace. I wish to start by explaining how the university workplace bullying and intimidation policy applies to your situation. Is that okay with you?
Yes, that would be great.
At your first meeting with the cooking team to review the menu, which you said was approximately about 3 months after Alex had started working, you thought Alex was highly critical of your menu, saying it was out of date, boring, and hated by the students, and, quote, shit food. Saying that the menu was out of date, boring, and hated by the students was really only his opinion. But using the phrase shit food would be considered as an insult or offensive language under the item 1 of the behaviours of the workplace bullying policy. You can see that? But the above only happened once and therefore is not considered bullying. To be considered bullying, the behaviour has to be repeated. But you also mentioned that you are constantly being talked over at regular team meetings, and this, in conjunction with the other, maybe constitute work bullying. The behaviour is definitely repeated, and I would place it in the category of isolating a worker from normal work interactions, which is also under item 1 of types of behaviour in the policy. You have said that you feel Alex has driven a wedge between yourself and the cooks and your supervisor, Brian. I think it would be a good idea to explore this further to understand what the root cause may be. Normally, my first suggestion would be that if a person felt there were grounds to believe that they were being bullied at work, then I would suggest that you talk to the perpetrator, which in this case is Alex. But as you've already tried to talk about your concerns to your supervisor, Brian, am I right in thinking that you don't feel comfortable about talking to Alex directly?
No, I don't feel comfortable with bringing it up with Alex.
Okay, and because you've already initiated talk with Brian, who said to you it was all in your head, then I believe that he may not have taken your concerns seriously. You have a few options from this point forward. You can make an informal complaint to Brian, but you have the right to have a staff member present, either myself, a union rep, or another staff member that you would feel would best support you. If you pick this path, do you have anybody in mind?
Well, seeing you're the workplace relations advisor, I would feel comfortable with you. Okay,
great. Now, if we didn't resolve this with Brian, we do have other options. One of those is to escalate it to his manager. Also, if you felt that you didn't want to make an informal complaint to Brian, then we could make one directly to his manager. Another pathway is to use mediation. If you selected this method, I could request it on your behalf to the manager of the Equal Opportunity Department. And the final option is to make a formal complaint. This also can be made on your behalf through me in writing to the Director of Human Resources Management. Before we discuss which path you may like to take, I'll give you the pros and cons of each one.
Okay.
Even though you have already tried talking with Brian, it seems to me that he may have dismissed you, or as I've previously mentioned, didn't take the concern seriously. As the policy stipulates under item 2, responsibilities of managers and supervisors, managers and supervisors have the responsibility to promote a workplace free of bullying and to provide training and information to staff of acceptable and unacceptable workplace behaviours. Also provide information to staff of the actions they may take if they feel that they have been bullied. So Brian has a responsibility under the university policy to handle your bully concerns. It may have been that he does not have the required education in this area to determine or understand that your situation fits within the policy guidelines. If we approach him together, I can assist you in explaining your concerns. If after our meeting with Brian and he still doesn't believe your situation fits within the policy, then you have the option to raise it through me, if you would like, to his manager. If you would like to choose mediation, we would apply to the manager of Equal Opportunity Department, which would be confidential. It is important to understand that the perpetrator is not required to attend a mediation session if they make that decision to go ahead with that mediation, but will be told about the allegations, which could become a formal complaint. The final option is to make a formal complaint. The Human Resources Department will then assess whether the complaint should be investigated. They'll obtain further information from all relevant parties. They'll also want to discuss or understand what steps we have taken to resolve the issue prior to making the formal complaint. And if we haven't taken any, why? If they deem that the complaint is warranted, then they'll inform the perpetrator and let them know that the process and their rights. The HR department will determine if disciplinary action is warranted, what actions the manager supervisor should take to prevent it happening again, and if compensation should be awarded, and if counselling and mediation should be considered. Chris, before selecting an option, could you tell me a bit more about your relationship with Brian?
Well, I had a good relationship with Brian before Alex was employed, and I feel that it has eroded since.
Do you feel comfortable talking with Brian?
Yes, but I was a bit shocked that he hadn't taken my concerns seriously.
I completely understand your thoughts. I would also have the same feelings. What I would suggest, that is, if you also feel comfortable, is that I set up a meeting with Brian. I can either do this myself or you can come along also, and we can discuss your concerns and the situation with him again, but I'll also bring along the policy and run through it with him at the same time. This may provide him with further insight and information to take action. I can also, if he's amenable, assist him on how to deal with the situation. What are your thoughts about that suggestion moving forward?
I think that would be a good way forward.
Fantastic, great. Before finishing up today, I have a Safe Work Australia document titled Dealing with Workplace Bullying, a worker's guide, for you to take home and read. This will provide you with further information, and please feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Do you have any other questions at the moment?
No, that's great.
Fantastic.